Oh, hello. Welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuff and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today is a very pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things. And on this pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things, we will talk about these things and stuffs, such as upcoming videos, things that you can look forward to on Stuff and Things and Stuff and Things Plays. We're going to get into a little bit more about my job, not necessarily specifics, but there was another sort of situation where it kind of dawned on me that maybe my job is not very pleasant, or at least to the general population. We'll get into that. Had a weird run-in with some quicksand recently. That's kind of a strange story. I'll tell you that. And then we'll have a quick mini review of the movie Dune by Denis Villeneuve that has been out, I guess, about a month now. I was able to check it out with Diamond last weekend, and I'd like to give you my impressions of that. And then, of course, we will end it all with your questions in hashtag #AskStuffandThings. So, let's get started. All right, things that you can look forward to on Stuff and Things and Stuff and Things Plays. First off, on Stuff and Things Plays, the Demon's Souls series is continuing with our good friend Kevin the Kurt. I'm really enjoying this game, and I'm really enjoying making this series. Like I mentioned last week, I think it's one of the more entertaining series I've ever done on Stuff and Things Plays, and the views have been less numerous than I was hoping, I guess, but the feedback has been really great from the people who are watching that series. And it's great. I heard from Jason, who donated the PS5 so I could play this game, and he is very, very happy with the series so far. He's really enjoying it. So that really means a lot. I'm really glad that's the case. And for all of you who are watching, thank you so much. Please keep giving me that feedback because I love hearing from you. And if you haven't checked it out yet, go on over to Stuff and Things Plays. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, there is a new episode, and I think it's fantastic. Next, I just did a video that I had trouble categorizing. I was trying to figure out, it's on a blend that we've reviewed in the past. I reviewed a version of this blend in the past, about 4 years ago. It is Cornell & Diehl Bayou Morning, but this is the Flake version. And I did the ribbon cut version in 2017. It is a very Perique heavy blend. It's a vapor, a Virginia Perique blend. It has red stowed Virginias, and then it has Perique, but it has about 25% Perique, which is a lot. And I did this review initially with the ribbon cut version, and I had this tin of the Flake version, and I wanted to do it. I wanted to get it out and try it and talk about it on a video, but I didn't know, should this be a revisited episode? Because it's not technically the same thing. It's a Flake versus a ribbon cut. But is it really worth doing a whole new review because it's basically the same blend but just a different cut? And I know that the cut can change a blend quite a bit. So at the end of the day, I just decided it's not really any of those things. It's just me sitting down and trying out a blend and telling you about it, telling you my impressions, not first impressions. I don't know. It's so hard to categorize, but I think you'll enjoy it. It's kind of fun to just break out of the conventions that a certain category of video might impose. Like if it's a first impressions video, I should probably hit these certain beats or these certain points. If it's a revisited video, I should hit these certain things. But this was just me talking about a blend, how I felt about it, how it was tasting, how it made me feel deep down inside. And I think you'll enjoy that. This is coming out Wednesday of this week, the amorphous, uncategorizable video about Cornell & Diehl Bayou Morning Flake. So check that out as well. All right, so a few weeks ago, I can't remember exactly how long ago, I was mentioning the fact that we had been really busy at work. For those of you who don't know, my actual real job, the job that actually pays my bills, is to do concrete work for a family business, my family's business, where we do concrete. Foundations, driveways, flat work, all that kind of stuff. And a while back, we were doing a really big job, and we had tried to hire someone from a service called People Ready, which we occasionally do. It's sort of a temp agency. A lot of the people who are trying to find work through this agency. Either they might be doing seasonal work, and then if they're laid off for a large length of time, instead of trying to get a different job, or a permanent full-time job, they'll apply at People Ready, and then they can get day labor. Sometimes the people have had either issues with the law or substances or things in the past. So it's cool. It's a good service because you can actually maybe help people get a little leg up and get some employment experience. Sometimes people get hired on by the outfits who hire them through People Ready. Sometimes they'll get full-time employment. But we've also had some bad luck trying to find people who can actually work for a full day. And during that last sort of situation, we had someone come in who was very out of shape, and just within 20 minutes of them trying to do my job, they were just not doing well. They were sweating profusely and looked as though they were about to keel over and have a heart attack. And I was sort of talking about, a lot of people aren't used to doing hard things. A lot of people aren't used to being uncomfortable. And I had another example of that the day before. It was another situation where we were stripping a foundation. So we had poured a big foundation, and we have all these forms that we use to pour the concrete into. So you have forms on either side, the concrete goes in. Once the concrete dries, you take the forms off. So these are 8-foot by 2-foot form panels. And basically we needed someone who could pack a lot of those form panels for us. We're stripping them off. We need to get them all out of the hole and scrape them and stack them and get everything ready. And so we once again called up People Ready and mentioned to them the fact that the last person we had could not cut it for the whole day. And they said, don't worry, we've got the perfect person. He is used to this kind of work. He's a really good worker, and he should be great. He should work out fine for you. Well, he showed up, and he actually said that he had worked for us before, but I couldn't remember that. And he started, carrying forms around and stuff, and he lasted about 2 hours until he took me aside and said, I'm sorry, man, I just don't think I can do this. I can't do this. He said he had an issue with his shoulder or something, which could very well be the case. And who am I to say anything to him other than, well, okay, sorry about that. I'm glad that you gave it a try. You came out. He did assure me that he was calling someone else who also worked through People Ready, and that person would come and take over for him, which is nice. So he did that. That person came, and that person was great. He's actually someone that we have had work for us a couple times, and it worked out. But it just struck me again, I kind of take for granted what I do. And I'm not trying to be self-aggrandizing or anything, because why would I self-aggrandize about doing concrete work? But most people, I guess, can't do this. They can't do that job. And it doesn't strike me as being super hard. I mean, there are certain days that I'm just exhausted, or certain days that are very stressful or hectic or whatever. And I probably, like any job, you just get used to it. And there are good days and bad days, and you just kind of fall into a routine if you're competent and you know what you're doing. And so it's not like a daily occurrence that I'm like, man, this is really hard. I can't believe I'm doing something so hard. And I guess other people have jobs that might be more difficult in different ways, but as far as just physical exertion and putting up with being uncomfortable, it was also pouring down rain the entire time. You're wading through mud. I guess there's a lot going on, and most people are not used to being uncomfortable, and they don't like to be uncomfortable, which is perfectly reasonable if you think about it. But I don't know, is that a skill that within our society, and if you can even call it a skill, is that something that in our society, in Western industrialized countries, is that just disappearing? Is it really hard to find people now who will do a job that forces them to put up with being physically uncomfortable and having to exert themselves to a crazy degree for 8-9 hours in a day? Is that just rare now? I know that there are people who do construction work. There are plenty of people who do construction work. I know that a lot of people now who do concrete work are immigrants from South America, Central America, from Mexico. So maybe it's just a problem for, you know, I live in America, so for Americans who were born in America, they're just not used to doing that kind of thing. I don't know. It's weird. But then the guy who came and took over for the person who couldn't cut it, he's this guy we've had quite a few times, and I don't know what his backstory is or any of the issues he may have had in his life, but he just strikes me as someone who's kind of taken out of time. He's like someone you could imagine during the Great Depression with a big group of guys waiting for someone to come by in like a flatbed truck, and they all pile in and they go and have to like dynamite their way through a hillside or something for a road to go through, and he'll just do whatever you ask him to do. He won't complain. He's very competent. He's just like, okay, boss. All right, boss. And he just does it. And I think that that is so rare now. It's really, really difficult for us to find anyone who can do something like that. I don't know. Have you noticed that? Any of you who are in the construction trades or anything like that, anything that requires long physical exertion and effort, and a lot of physical effort, combined with maybe being physically uncomfortable, whether it be from the weather or other situations, like, is that a rare thing to be able to find these days? I think it might be. I think it might be. Speaking of this job, I guess 2 days ago, we've been getting a lot of rain lately, and on a construction site where you have a dig where they've dug for the foundation or the footing or whatever, you have a lot of just uncovered ground. So just dirt, mud, whatever, and combine it with a lot of rain, you'll have a lot of mud. And we're doing this job for a family. It's a husband and wife who she actually designs houses. So she kind of knows what she's doing as far as that goes. Her husband no longer does this now, but had a past of being a carpenter. He used to frame houses. So they both are well aware of the whole process of building a house. So they don't have a general contractor running the job. They're running it themselves. And they live nearby as well. And the wife had come out, and I wasn't really paying attention. Her husband was doing something on site, and she was sort of poking around in the corner. There was this area where a lot of water had gathered, and there was a culvert, and it looked like maybe she was trying to kind of get a channel going from the area where the water was to get it to go into the culvert to drain away. I wasn't really paying attention, but I looked over at one point, and she said something about stuck, and I thought she just meant that, you know, the water was stuck, like the water wouldn't go into the culvert. And I feel badly about it now, but I kind of just wasn't really listening to her. And then I turned back to her, I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes as I had gone down into the dig and then came back out for something and realized that it wasn't that the water was stuck, it was that she was stuck. She had walked into this area that seemed as though, I don't know, maybe there was a puddle that deep. But then she had begun to sunk down into the mud. And by the time I noticed what was going on, she was already knee deep in the mud. And so I was like, oh, sorry, I'll try to help you out there. And so I went, tried to grab her, and she's pretty tall too. She's probably 5'11" or so pretty tall for a woman. And started pulling her and trying to sort of give her instructions, but in that situation, she was sort of panicking. And so as I was trying to pull her forward to more solid ground, she was using her other leg that wasn't stuck as badly, and she was placing it to try to like lift herself out, but just putting it into the area that was just filled with this sucking mud. And so she was just pushing herself in deeper. So as I was trying to pull her out, she ended up working her way all the way to like butt level, crotch level, just completely being sucked down into this mud. And it just occurred to me, this is the first time that I've ever seen, I mean, this isn't the, you know, stereotypical quicksand that you see in movies or like, I don't know if Indiana Jones ever fell into quicksand, but that type of movie. But it was the nearest I had ever seen in my entire life, where somebody, as they try to struggle out of the situation, just end up sinking deeper and deeper and deeper. And so eventually I had to get my brother. We were on either arm. I had to throw a board across this whole area and try to get her to like sort of crawl onto this board so we could pull her out. And it was both hilarious and I felt slightly, well, I felt bad for her, obviously, because it was an embarrassing and sort of difficult situation, but it was just so surreal and weird at the same time that I couldn't help but see the humor in it. We finally got her pulled all the way out, and luckily she didn't lose her boots in there. And her husband finally noticed what was going on once she was already like crawling around on the ground, just completely covered in mud from the waist down. But yeah, that was weird. And as long as I've worked on, construction sites in a place that gets a lot of rain, I have never seen anything like that. Nothing like that has ever happened to me. And yeah, interesting. So recently my fiance Diamond and I went to go see the new film Dune by Denis Villeneuve. I am a huge fan of the Frank Herbert novel, the original novel Dune, the first book in a series. I have read that maybe 4 or 5 times throughout my life. I think it was originally published in 1965-ish, somewhere around there. And I haven't read the entire series. I've read the first book multiple times, like I mentioned, read the second book. But as the series went along, I would kind of lose interest. I'm going to try to reread the whole thing again now. But I always considered the first book to be one of the best sci-fi novels ever written. Just the world building involved, the prose, it's just so evocative of an actual time and place, and I just love pretty much everything about that original Dune novel. And in the past, people have tried to bring Dune to the big screen. There was the David Lynch version in 1984, and as much as I like David Lynch, I do not like that movie. There was another version that they tried to make in the 70s, and I can't remember the name of the director now, but there is a documentary, I think on Amazon Prime, where they basically just talk about this director trying to make this version of Dune that just never happened. I think he wanted to make a 6-hour crazy epic that was way too expensive and expansive, but it always seemed like maybe a difficult thing to film and a difficult thing to bring to the screen. But Denis Villeneuve, who I think is a very good director, I really loved Blade Runner 2049 or 2087? I think 2049. I can't remember. Prisoners, Arrival. He's done a lot of good movies. And he has made a version of Dune. It's going to be in 2 parts. So the first part is just basically the first half of the original Dune novel. And I was really looking forward to seeing this. I'd heard some initial reviews, some very positive, some less so, but I felt, based on seeing interviews with him, that he seemed to be such a huge fan of the source material that it seemed like it was in good hands. So we went and saw it, and I have to say, I highly recommend it. I think it was really, really good. It's really hard for me to put myself in the shoes of someone who has never read Dune and figure out what they would think of this novel, or not this novel, this movie. Because like I said, it does kind of end in the middle, and I know what happens after that, but if you don't know what happens after that, is it a good place for a cliffhanger? Is it a good place to bring this first chapter of this story to a close and then wait? I think they have the go-ahead for the second movie, but it's going to be in 2 years. So I don't really know, I can't really speak to that, but for someone who has read the novel, I have to say that in spite of the fact that there are quite a few things that were truncated, there wasn't anything that was just glaringly changed just for the hell of it, it seemed like to me. Everything made sense. Anything that they had to do sort of plot-wise to kind of condense things and still convey the information they needed to convey, it made a lot of sense. I thought the production design was great. I would have preferred maybe a little more color. Everything sort of had this kind of monochrome grayscale or brown sort of look, and I know what they were going for as far as that goes, and it does work, but I kind of would have liked a little bit more color in it. But as far as just, imagining this far future society with space travel and technology that isn't based on computers and artificial intelligences. It was really cool. I thought it was really well realized. I thought the actors were all great. They all sort of more or less matched my ideas of what those characters would have been like when I was reading, would have been like as I was reading that book initially. If anything, the only criticism I would really have is that even though some people might consider this movie kind of slow, to me, one of the things I enjoyed the most about the original novel was just all the explanations of the political situation and sort of the technical things in the society. I really loved that world building, and they didn't spend as much time on that in the film, and I can understand why they wouldn't, because you have to have a general audience be able to appreciate this film and not get bored. But to me, I would have loved more of that. It's such a rich, crazy society that Frank Herbert evokes in that novel, and I would have liked to see a little bit more of that in the movie. But you know, bearing in mind that he has to get funding to make this film, I can appreciate the fact that it couldn't be like a 3-hour treatise on the socio-political situation of the empire in this era. I think it's supposed to be like over 10,000 years in the future or something. So I highly recommend Dune, especially if you've read the novel already. If you haven't read the novel, I think you'll still enjoy it. I think it's quite a spectacle. There's just a lot to look at, a lot to appreciate from a production design and action sort of standpoint. But I think, especially if you've read the novel, you'll really appreciate this. And I highly recommend Dune by Denis Villeneuve. We're actually going to go see what is it? What the hell is it called now? French Dispatch? It's the new Wes Anderson film. I've been waiting for it forever. I didn't even realize it was coming out so soon, but I just thought, oh, there are tickets available. It's playing locally, so we're going to go see that. So maybe I'll let you know what we thought of that next weekend. All right, gang, but now it is time for your questions and hashtag #AskStuffandThings. Remember, if you have a question for me and you would like it answered on the Sunday Stuff and Things, tweet at @SATBradley with the hashtag #AskStuffandThings, and I will do my best to answer you. You can also leave comments or questions in YouTube comments, or if you are a Patreon supporter, you can write to me there. But first, via Patreon, no, nothing via Patreon. First, via Twitter, we have a missive from It's Ya Boy Ted Bradley. And Ted happens to be Jason Buckner's son. Jason Buckner, the man who donated a PS5 so I could play Demon's Souls. Ted says, saw the video of the PS5 reveal. Had the benefit of knowing ahead of time, but the reveal was perfect. You mind answering this question on Sunday Stuff and Things? I don't mind at all. I'm sorry it's a bit late, Ted, but we didn't have Ask Stuff and Things for a couple weeks. Will you be doing any research beforehand on the Demon's Souls playthrough? The game has obviously been out for some time, and I think it would benefit the outcome of the playthrough if there was at least some hindsight. It drives me insane every time my dad and I watch you step over the summon sign right before the end of Dark Souls 3. It's right there, Bradley. It's right freaking there. Thanks, Bradley. And Kevin, let's get it on. Thank you for the question, Ted, and I appreciate your enthusiasm for these playthroughs. I don't know, I'm trying to remember, your father has brought this up as well, that I guess at the end of the Dark Souls 3 playthrough on the channel, I missed a summon sign and missed a potential ending of the game, and maybe I seemed quite annoyed by that at the time. I don't think I was really that annoyed. It was, to me, the experience of playing these FromSoft games is the experience of playing the FromSoft game. Like, that is the point. The endings, I don't really care that much about. And I typically try to do these as blind playthroughs, so I don't know anything about the areas before I go through. Like you said, though, this game has been out a long time. This is a remake of an older game, so I'm not totally opposed to, if I get to the end, maybe checking it out, like, oh, are there alternate things that I could do? Are there things that I should do before I end the game so I don't miss out on something? So I will take that as sort of a case-by-case basis. I, in general, am not going to be looking ahead because I'd like to be surprised, but we'll see. It's possible that I'll look things up about the endings before we get there. So thank you for the question, Ted. Next, from YouTube, Daniel Starbuck says, hey Bradley, greetings and salutations from the UK. Oh, from the UK. Have you seen or tried out the Pocketjars made by the Pipery? I'm looking at buying some, and I'd like to know your opinion if you've had an experience with them. Dan. I had not heard of the Pocketjars, but I looked them up, and they're cool. They're like these little plastic gasketed jars that are quite a bit smaller than a typical tin, and you can put, I don't know, maybe 3, 4, 5 bowls worth of pipe blend in there, seal them up, and take them with you. They do seem cool. Typically, if I'm going to be enjoying a pipe out and about, I have a bag with me, and I usually have my pipe roll in there and then a tin. But if I didn't have a bag, I could definitely see myself pocketing one of these Pocketjars. They seem cool. I'd maybe like to try one out at some point. Next, from Ciro Kasserin. Sorry if I butchered that name. There are 2 pipes that I really want, and here's my excuse to not decide for just one of them. To dedicate one for the brighter teas, Virginia, Orientals, Latakia, and the other one for the darker ones, Burley, Kentucky, Perique. Of course, most of the times they're blended, but I would decide according to the predominant one. Opinions are welcome. So, I don't know if you've ever heard me say this in the past, Ciro. I don't care too much about keeping pipes separate for different kinds of blends, but a lot of people do, and I don't see that there's anything wrong with this, and if it gives you a good excuse to have more than one pipe, and you should have more than one pipe, because even if you're not separating them by blend, you want to have one for one day, one for the next day, depending on how many pipes you're having in a particular day. It's always good to have more pipes, and any excuse to have more pipes is a good excuse. So go ahead and do it, and like he mentioned, anyone else who has an opinion, put it down in the comments below, in the little comments. Next, from Salju Wee. Hi Bradley, what's your most favorite fountain pen? I've tackled this before. I think I have to say that it's the Lamy 2000. It's just an all-around great, not super expensive, but really high quality fountain pen. I really like the Lamy 2000. And last, from Cheesy Bacon. How are we doing on time here? Okay, the camera might shut off for a minute, but we'll get right back to it if it does. From Cheesy Bacon, they say, Bradley, you've mentioned how minimally varied and otherwise unremarkable your diet was prior to meeting Diamond. In the 1999 science fiction film The Matrix, the characters in the movie dine upon a runny white gruel-like substance that is described as a single-cell protein combined with synthetic aminos, vitamins, and minerals. Everything a body needs. Hypothetically, if such a tasteless yet nutritionally perfect food actually existed and was readily available, could you see yourself subsisting almost solely upon such a substance if you were left to your own devices? Thank you for the question. I can't remember if I've talked about this before, but there was a weird Kickstarter, and it was for basically this. It was for like a slimy gruel-like substance that supposedly had all the nutrients that you needed, and I'm racking my brain. I can't remember what it was called. Yeah, I can't remember, but I don't know if it ever went through. I think a friend of mine was going to try it, and I think maybe they did get a batch of it. It was something that you would like mix with water and then drink as like a slop. Just like human chow, but in liquidy form. I could sort of see the appeal of that, but I do enjoy food. It's just not something that consumes my life. I know a lot of people will go all day thinking about what they eat for dinner. I don't do that. It doesn't mean that I don't like food when I'm eating food, and if all I ever ate was just like human chow, some sort of weird gruel, I think I could live like that. I'd probably be fine, but I wouldn't prefer that. My fiance makes amazing meals all the time. She's been doing this thing where she's going alphabetically through every country in the world and making a dish from that country. And it's fantastic. We just had this amazing stuff. Oh, it's like the Egyptian national dish. It is called koshari? Kushari? Something like that. It's like rice and chickpeas and lentils and this and macaroni, so there's like a weird Italian quality to it as well, and this sort of tomato-based sauce. It was really good, and it was great. And I would never have tried that if I were just eating human gruel all the time. So I could do it if I had to, and I probably wouldn't consider myself necessarily put upon if that were the case, but it wouldn't be my preference. All right, gang, it is time for the very best part of the show, and that is where we thank you, the Patreon supporters, the people who make this show go. They provide the lights that are shining upon me, or help provide. They help pay for the fancy camera that is recording this video right now, and they help offset some of the fact that I can't always monetize things on YouTube because of their monetization rules. If you would like to support the channels, there is a link in the description box below, and it is much appreciated. But today, we would like to thank those who support the channels at $25 or more a month. People like Kirk Crompton, Private Eye, Glenn, Jason Buckner, Gloria Phillips, Ryan McFadin, Matt Marino, Joe Heaphy, and MDoftheNorth. And of course, the crazy people, the maniacs who support the channels at $100 a month. People like our good friend Peter Straub, I was getting ahead of myself there, Bob Magee, David Gaudreau, and Ashes of the Phoenix. Thank you all so much for your support. Thank you all so much for watching, for liking, for sharing, for commenting. That all helps with the YouTube algorithm. But until next time, oh wait, no, not until next time. First, be sure to make sure you watch the episode on Bayou Morning, which will be happening this Wednesday, Bayou Morning Flake, and then Monday, Wednesday, Fridays on Stuff and Things Plays, Kevin the Kurt's Adventures Continue. But until next time, until we meet again, I've been your good friend Bradley, you've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things on a very pleasant Sunday, Stuff and Things. I'll see you later.